In this tutorial, we're going to look at layers. High-end image manipulation programs like PaintShop Pro and Photoshop allow you to work with layers, which gives you a great deal of power when you want to create special effects. Layers allow you to add elements to photographs in a way that makes the insertion virtually seamless. You can, for example, place a photograph of a person into a scene so that it looks like they were actually there. You can also place an additional person into a group photo, when in fact they weren't available at the time the group photograph was taken. So let's make a start. It doesn't matter a lot what version of software you are using. You only need some reasonable familiarity with the version you have. We will use Photoshop version 7. When we open the program, the Layers tab may already be available in the dock well here at the top right hand end. If it isn't, go to Window and pick Options. Then, if necessary, right-click on Layers, and the Layer menu will appear here on the workspace. From there, it can be dropped back into the dock well by a left click on the small chevron, and then on the option Dock to Palette Well. We will start by opening a picture that has been prepared for change. The photo has been adjusted to provide space for another person. Next, we will open the photo of the additional person, which we will call Jeff. The original background around Jeff has been removed to make things easier, though it is not really necessary. Since Jeff is now the active image on the canvas, we go to the toolbar and select the Move tool. Click on Jeff, hold, drag and drop Jeff onto the group photo. Jeff will then appear to be superimposed on the group. Now think of Jeff actually sitting on a clear sheet of glass above the group. That sheet is actually a layer. If we click on the Layer tab in the dock, a drop-down box shows, with the group photo now called Background and Jeff called Layer 1. Layer 1 is also highlighted. A little paintbrush icon also designates it as the active layer. We can do anything we like with Jeff whilst it is the active layer, without it affecting other layers or the background. For example, we can lighten, darken, resize or trim it. If we plan to add additional layers to the project, it would be useful at this stage to rename Layer 1 as Jeff, which will make it easier to distinguish it from other layers. To rename the layer, go to the Layer tab, then Properties, and then rename it. At this point, the plain background around Jeff can still be seen. Go to the toolbox, left-click on the magic wand, and then click on the background to select it. Then press the Delete button on the keyboard. The advantage of having the plain background is immediately apparent. If we had a mixed background, we couldn't select it all at once with the magic wand and thus remove it so easily. Note that Jeff might be a little too large to fit the picture. We might need to resize the layer. Because Jeff is still the active layer, we can do this without affecting the background. Go to Edit, then Transform, then Scale, and depressing the Shift key, place the cursor on the corner of Jeff. When the little diagonal arrow appears, push or pull the corner until Jeff appears to be the right size. Then click on any tool in the toolbox and click Apply when the option is offered. Jeff will now be the right size. Using the Move tool, adjust Jeff's position until you are satisfied. Now part of Jeff is blocking the view of others in the group, but this is not a problem. In the Layers palette, you will note there is an attribute called Opacity. It is currently 100%. Click on the little chevron and use the slide bar to reduce Jeff's opacity to the point where those underneath are clearly visible. At this point, it is a good idea to use the Zoom tool so that Jeff and the immediate area around him fills the screen. Now click on the Polygon Selection tool and track along the edges where Jeff is overlapping others in the photo. Position the tool on the edge and left-click, progressively working from point to point around the boundary and returning to the starting point. It is not necessary to do the whole boundary in one operation. Just do a section, close around it, double-click and then delete with the keyboard. Each time you move the tool, click before changing direction. When you have gone completely around the areas that overlap the background, go to the Layer palette and return the opacity to 100%. Around the edges of the cut, you will probably see a pixelated edge which needs to be blended. Select the Blur tool and with a small brush size, carefully go around the edges, blending them. Now when we return the picture to actual size, you will see how successful you've been in adding another person to the group. If you go to File and Save in Photoshop, it offers you the option of saving as a PSD file. This is not a final picture designation, but a project file designation. It is a good idea to save it that way first, because then you have the project file still and you can undo all the moves you have made by progressively clicking on the Edit and then step backwards. You might want to do this if you need to redo the project. You can also go to Window and left-click on History and go back a significant number of steps from there. Or if the History tab is in the Dockwell at the top right-hand corner, you can go there. To save the project as a finished photograph, go to File, Save As. Click on the Format chevron and choose JPEG or bitmap BMP. This makes the addition to the group photo permanent and cannot be undone. We might save as a bitmap if we are intending to undertake more work on the photograph. We can save as bitmaps many times without any picture deterioration because it is a lossless format. Each time we save as a JPEG, we lose a little sharpness in the picture because JPEGs are what is called a lossy format. This ends the tutorial.